My name is Marin Caldwell, and I'm 28. The night my boyfriend said, "Stop trying to fix me. This is just who I am." I didn't argue or bargain. I rinsed a wine glass we weren't using and dried it until the rim sang under the towel. In my head, I drew a straight line, like a chalk snap across drywall, a clean, blue dust that floats for a heartbeat before settling where the wall will be. That line is where I decided the rest of my life would stand. Ethan leaned against the doorway like he expected, a monsoon arms folded, chin raised. The posture of a man bracing for the tantrum he thinks he deserves for telling the truth. "You always make it a thing," he added, voice casual, as if naming the weather. "I'm not that guy you want me to be." He'd said it before, in smaller words, scattered across smaller moments, dishes left to fossilize, bills handled by vibes, plans abandoned, because he wasn't feeling it. Tonight, the pieces clicked into a sentence with edges. "Stop trying to fix me." I took a breath. I could feel all the way down to my ankles. "I believe you." His mouth tipped up like he'd won a prize. He didn't know what I had just decided. I slept fine. Peaceful. Even. Like the room understood, it didn't need to hold our future anymore. In the morning, the apartment looked the same and felt different. The sunlight laid a grid across the floorboards. And for the first time in months, I noticed the dust on the baseboards was only on one side of the living room, his side. That felt like a metaphor with its shoes on. I started with tiny engineering fixes. I bought 2 blue plates, 2 blue bowls, 1 blue mug. I washed only those. I cooked for one and labeled the container with masking tape and a date like I did at work when I portioned deliverables. The sink collected a geology of his promises, ceramic ridges, steel cutlery, strata of takeout. I stepped around his laundry. I folded only mine. Money next. Rent was due the following week. I paid exactly my half to the landlord portal and left a polite note. Going forward, we'll each pay our portion directly. Utilities where I could split them, I split them. Where I couldn't, I paid 50% and forwarded him the difference with the due date circled in the email like a diagram. Our shared calendar was my favorite experiment. For 3 years, I'd treated it like a living organism. Birthdays, annotated with gift ideas. Dentist reminders. Reservation, confirmations. The timing of his mother's calls. The note that he struggled after long Mondays. I stopped feeding the organism. I didn't delete anything. I simply did not add. By day 2, he sensed weather moving in. "You've been weird," Ethan said, opening the fridge and staring at its contents like a person who expects a pep talk. "You're not, like, hovering. I'm giving you space to be yourself," I said, and returned to marinating the chicken I wasn't going to share. He laughed once, confused. By day 4, a smell developed from his side of the sink, a sour, mushroom dark smell with ambitions. I sliced an apple and ate it at the counter, the knife clicking lightly against my blue plate. On the coffee table, the coaster waited for my mug like always. The quiet felt honest for the first time in a long time. He tested the edges of it that night. "You didn't ask how my day was. How was your day?" It's weird when you say it like that. "Like what?" "Like you're not trying." "I believe you," I said softly. "I'm not trying to fix you." His face flickered through 3 weather patterns. Confusion, irritation, almost hurt. Then he shrugged the way a person does when their world is supposed to stay arranged around them. "Whatever." I'm meeting the guys later. Kelsey might come. Kelsey, one of his perpetual cheerleaders, a friend who liked to narrate other people's relationships like a sport she wasn't playing. Have fun, I said, meaning it. If the chalk line meant anything, it meant I was going to stop lying with my calendar and my labor. The apartment drifted toward entropy on his side. Socks formed islands. Envelopes with red letters arrived for him and lived on the credenza like modern art. He borrowed my clean fork. Then, when I didn't wash it, he used a spoon for pasta and said it felt sad. I said nothing, and documented a beamload in my mind, what the structure can bear without pretending. Day 7. The calendar finally bit him. You didn't put the dinner on Friday, he said, staring at the empty square like a betrayal. Feel free to add whatever you want. You always what I met his eyes. Manage you. That sounds like fixing. The most astonishing part was the absence of anger in me. I wasn't being petty. I wasn't punishing. I was accepting. The way you accept gravity if you step off a curb. He had told me who he was. My job was no longer to argue with physics. He went fishing for leverage. You didn't say I love you this morning. You didn't either, I said lightly. He blinked. By the end of week 1, he ran out of clean dishes. He bought paper plates. The sink smell shifted from moral lesson to health code violation. He ordered takeout every night and left the bags like a shrine to convenience. I opened the windows and burned a candle named Ocean Linen while I answered late emails from home. The kind of work that used to irritate him because it interrupted the performance of being taken care of. Day 10. He tried a different door. He came home with carryout and set it on the counter without asking. Got your favorite? You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. A beat. You can say thank you. Thank you. It's like you don't care. I accept you, I said, and watched that land, like a stone in a shallow pool. The splash was visible. The ripples took their time. He left around 11 to clear his head. I cleaned my side of the kitchen and put my blue plate in the rack where it would dry by morning. I slept without dreaming. The next day, the group chat pinged in a swarm. Kelsey, then Jasmine, then Brittany, the reliable chorus. The texts weren't questions, they were prosecutions. Are you okay? Ethan says you've gone cold. He's been trying so hard, and you're distant. We're worried you're being manipulative. They hadn't worried when I was bone tired. They hadn't worried when I ran interference with his boss. His bills. His mother's expectations. They worried now that I was quiet. Around 6. I walked into our living room and found a tribunal assembled on the sofa. Kelsey, in her wide leg pants and moral certainty. Jasmine, with sympathetic eyebrows. Brittany already filming with her gaze. If not her phone, we need to talk about your behavior, Kelsey said, patting the cushion like I was the one on trial. Ethan stood behind them, hollow with triumph and fear. My behavior, I set my bag down and unzipped it calmly. The same way I unzipped myself from a sinking situation in my head. You're withholding affection, Jasmine said, as if reading from a pamphlet. You're acting cold, and you stopped doing your share. Brittany added, that's emotional abuse. I pay my half. I kept my voice even. I clean up after myself. I handle my responsibilities. That's literally my share. You always did more before, Kelsey said. You can't just change the rules. I didn't change anything, I said, feeling the blue chalk line steady beneath my feet. Ethan told me who he is and asked me to stop trying to fix him. So, I stopped. That's manipulation. Brittany declared. How? You know how? Kelsey snapped. He needs support. And by the way, he has options. Brianna from his office has been very supportive. Brianna. A name like a Hinga. Ethan's jaw twitched, not guilt so much as calculation. He glanced at me to see if I would flinch. I didn't. Not because it didn't matter, but because the chalk line meant this: I don't hold what someone else wants me to drop. Then he'll be fine, I said, and picked up my bag again. We're done here. Kelsey stood. You can't treat him like this. I'm accepting your friend, exactly as he asked to be accepted. I turned to Ethan. This is what acceptance looks like when it's not wearing a maid's apron. They sputtered. They said words like cold and withholding and unfair, as if love was a subsidy program with mandatory funding. I didn't get angry. I got finished. I excused myself, went to my room, my clean side of a shared life, and closed the door gently. Later, when the house was quiet, except for the refrigerator's faithful hum, my phone buzzed with a message that wasn't for me, but changed everything anyway. A notice from the landlord portal reminding us the full rent would be due by the 5th. I stared at the date. They felt the future swing its weight. Somewhere in the city, Ethan was probably telling someone this was the beginning of my cruelty. I knew better. This was the beginning of my honesty. I didn't sleep badly after the tribunal. I slept like a person who finally put down a heavy box she'd been pretending was Featherlight. Morning arrived with the sound of Ethan's keys thudding on the console. He'd come in late past midnight after grabbing a drink with the guys. The apartment wore the aftermath like a smear. A ring from his takeout cup on the coffee table I'd stopped wiping for him. Shoes collapsed, where a doormat might have wished to be packed. He watched me make coffee, the way a person watches a bomb. There sure is ticking but can't hear. So, last night, I lifted the mug. Let steam soften my face. Breakfast is in the pan if you want some. Eggs. You'll need a clean plate. He opened the cabinet and blinked at an expanse of stained ceramic stacked like geological ages on his shelf. Right. He took one of my blue plates and looked at me. Testing. No, I said gently, and took it from his hand. That's mine. You're really doing this. I'm really accepting you, I said. It turns out acceptance is very efficient. His jaw shifted. Kelsey thinks you're retaliating. Kelsey also thinks a group ambush in my living room is healthy conflict resolution. He exhaled hard. Switched to pleading. You made me look stupid in front of them. The truth did that, I said, and plated my eggs. He ate standing up with a paper plate sagging in his palm. And I let him. There's a mercy in letting reality explain itself. Around noon, the group chat warmed up again. Kelsey sent paragraphs about community care. Jasmine added an infographic with pastel fonts about signs of emotional withholding. Brittany texted a half-concerned, half-accusatory, "Can we talk?" as if talking hadn't been weaponized already. I muted the thread and finished a client brief. When people show you their priorities, take notes. Or in my case, screen captures. By afternoon, the weather shifted. Ethan attempted charm. He tidied the couch pillows. A ritual I used to claim. At the end of each day, a tiny act of returning the room to neutral. He took out one bag of trash and announced it. A census of effort. He washed exactly 3 dishes, 2 of his. 1 of mine, he'd borrowed. He tried on competence like it was a jacket someone might compliment. That's great, I said. Because it was, you can keep doing that. For you? He watched my face the way a dog watches a hand that used to feed it. You could meet me halfway. He tried. I spent 3 years meeting you at 95%. I sipped water. Let the quiet do the math. This is halfway. He scrolled his phone then, his eyes flicking with the rhythm of incoming attention. The tiny dopamine factory of sympathy was open for business. I imagined Kelsey's texts. I imagined a dozen versions of, she's different, and she's cruel, and you deserve better. I imagined a chorus of men, are such babies, would be out of character for his echo chamber. Men who ask to be unparented rarely recognize the silence that follows. At 4, he said. My mom wants to know if we're still doing Sunday dinner. You're free to go either way. I said, add it to your calendar. You always, he caught himself. The word always had started to taste like an admission. That evening, he left to clear his head, and I cleared the kitchen. My section. My rules. The sink's smell was louder now. A physical accusation. As if air could judge. I opened a window. City sounds rose like a tide, buses sighing. A motorcycle peeling away. Someone laughing too hard on the sidewalk. I felt strangely peaceful listening to other people's lives. My phone lit up with a DM. Not from our world, but adjacent enough that it scraped Brianna R. I stared for a beat. The profile was private. The avatar was a distant sunset. The message preview, hey, this is awkward. But I opened it. I don't want drama. I just wanted to give you a heads up, woman to woman. Ethan's been messaging me a lot lately. We dated a while back, last year, broke up for good reasons. He told me you two were basically done, and that you'd gone cold. I told him to figure his stuff out and stop using me as a backup plan. I blocked him today. Sorry if this makes your life harder. I read it twice. Once as anger, once as clarity. I typed, thanks for letting me know. I appreciate the honesty. Take care of yourself. I didn't forward the messages. I didn't call him out. I didn't storm. Screenshot. Or stake my claim. Not because it didn't matter. Betrayal always matters. But because the chalk line had already moved the load-bearing wall. I didn't need evidence to justify an exit I had already architected in my mind. He came home smelling like a bar towel citrus. Spilled tonic. The damp insistence of other people's hands. He tossed his jacket at a chair. It missed. We're not okay, he said, as if delivering the plot twist I was supposed to be afraid of. We're honest, I said. That's new. What does that even mean? It means I stopped pretending. He paced. The way a person does when they're searching for a script. Everyone thinks you're punishing me. Everyone benefits when I overfunction. I said, everyone loses when I stop. That doesn't make stopping a punishment. It makes it a boundary. Kelsey said, Kelsey is not inside this lease. He flinched at that word. Lease. The scaffolding around our life. Maybe he heard the clock inside it the way I did the landlord's notice ticking toward the 5th, like a metronome. You're really going to let us get evicted, he said suddenly. Panic. Slipping from its leash. I paid my half. I said, you can pay yours. Or figure it out? Call your mother. Call your bank. Call your past self and ask him why he thought autopay was oppression. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. You've changed. I changed how much I'm willing to lie. I said, that's it. He slept on the couch that night. As if proximity to the battlefield mattered, I slept in a square of light that the street lamp gave the bedroom, and let my muscles learn the shape of absence. The next morning, a new court convened not in my living room, but on the internet. A flood of vague posts appeared from people with our faces in their archives, memes about cold women, quotes about narcissists. A boomerang of clinking glasses with the caption supporting real love. I didn't reply. I posted nothing. When strangers reach for a story, silence is a cliff they can't scale. Midday. I opened my laptop and started a different kind of search. Studio apartments. Within 3 miles of my office. Natural light. Month-to-month or 6-month option. No shared laundry if I could avoid it. I bookmarked 3. Filled out 2 applications. And typed my current landlord's email with the kind of professional politeness I reserve for tough clients. When you've been the project manager of your own relationship, pivoting to an actual project feels like relief. That night, the tribunal tried to reconvene. I returned from the gym and found Kelsey again. Jasmine again. And a new addition, a man I didn't recognize. All beard and righteous shoulders. Ethan's reinforcements. Kelsey didn't waste time. We're worried you're financially abusing him. My gym bag landed on the washer with a soft thud. By paying my half, you know he's not good with money. Jasmine said, like reading his horoscope aloud. Love means compensating. Love means consenting. I said, to reality. The bearded man crossed his arms. Seems like you've got everything figured out. Maybe you should be single. I smiled. Maybe. Kelsey changed tactics. Look. Brianna's been a friend to him, his ex-girlfriend. I said, without heat. 3 faces blinked. Ethan's blink lingered too long. Kelsey recovered. Ex or not. She says, you're freezing him out. She blocked him today. I said, you might want to update your source. The room did something wonderful. Then it inhaled and had nothing to exhale. For once, no one had a script. Jasmine looked at Ethan. The bearded man deflated into furniture. Kelsey's certainty wobbled but tried to keep her balance. This is not who you are, she told me, grasping for the version of me that made her friend comfortable. On the contrary, I said, this is exactly who I am when I'm not performing. They left with brittle goodbyes and filmed glares. The kind that hope the camera in someone else's mind is rolling. Ethan stayed. Small and furious. You didn't have to humiliate me. I didn't. I said, you did. He disappeared into the bedroom and slammed the door, a punctuation mark that has never changed a sentence. I stood in the kitchen and felt the building's bones around me, the way our walls carried sound, the way our floors carried weight, the way a person carries a life until she rearranges where the beams go. Near midnight, my phone pinged. The landlord's portal again. A polite digital knock. Reminder full. Rent due by the 5th. The message wore a neutral smile. Numbers don't take sides. They just arrive. I set the phone down. I could feel the chalk line under my bare feet. As steady as a foundation. Tomorrow I'd tour a studio with big windows and room for 1 blue plate to dry in a rack. Tomorrow the clock would tick louder. But tonight, acceptance was a blanket. I didn't have to tuck around anyone but myself. In the dark, I pictured the front door and the many people it had admitted friends. Deliverables. Apologies. Groceries. Versions of me I'd outgrown. I pictured it opening for movers and closing on a life that could, finally, bear its own weight. By the 4th morning, the air in our apartment felt thick with unspoken math, two halves that no longer added up. The lease. The bills. The unwashed dishes. All unpaid balances in human form. Ethan shuffled out of the bedroom in the same t-shirt he'd slept in. Hair wild. Voice cautious. Marin. We need to talk about rent. I've been waiting for you to say that. I replied, stirring my coffee. The 5th is tomorrow. He hesitated, like the words were stones he didn't want to lift. I don't have it. Not all of it. Anyway, can you cover me just this once? No. I didn't look up from the cup. I paid my half. You always pay the full thing. Then I Venmo you later. That was before you told me to stop fixing things. I stopped. His eyes flashed, disbelief first. Then anger. You're really going to let me get evicted? Me? I turned. Finally, meeting his gaze. No. Ethan. You're going to let yourself get evicted. Those are different things. He stormed into the bedroom, muttering something about me being heartless. Through the wall, I heard drawers opening, the angry rustle of clothes being stuffed into a bag. He called someone, his voice too loud, too desperate. I caught words like unbelievable, abusive, and manipulative. By noon, my phone started buzzing. Mom, Ethan says you're refusing to help with rent. Is that true, Kelsey? He's freaking out. You really okay making him homeless? Unknown number. You're cold. You don't deserve someone like him. I silenced every notification and wrote one email short. Professional. Finel. Dear Mr. Larkin. As discussed, my half of November rent has been paid via portal. Please contact Ethan Cole directly for his remaining portion. Best. Marin Caldwell. That was it. Facts. Not feelings. Around 5. The door burst open. Ethan's cheeks were blotchy, his hands trembling. You told the landlord. I told the truth. He said if it's not paid by tomorrow, we'll both get eviction notices. Then I suggest you find a way to pay your share. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. You can't be serious. I don't have $750 sitting around. You've had a job for 3 years. I said calmly. Where does it go? He flinched. Defensiveness crawling up his throat. You know, I had that car repair. And the trip. And choices. I said. They always come with invoices. He sat down hard, burying his face in his hands. You don't even care what happens to me. I care, I said softly. Just not enough to keep rescuing you from yourself. He called his parents after that. I heard the conversation through the walls. His mother's voice was sharp, his father's quieter but full of the same disbelief. She's really not helping you, his father asked. Ethan's answer. She's punishing me. An hour later, his phone buzzed again. They're sending the money. He muttered. Not looking at me. That's good, I said, and went back to my laptop. Silence stretched between us like a canyon wide. Echoing. Finale, that night, I filled out the final rental application for a studio apartment downtown. The pictures showed morning light on white walls, an old brick exterior, and a single-pane window that overlooked a tree-lined street. The application fee stung, but the idea of peace didn't. When the confirmation email arrived, application received, awaiting review, I felt something unclench inside me. The next morning, Ethan's mom called. I didn't pick up, but the voicemail was long. Marin. Sweetheart. Relationships are about compromise. Ethan's under a lot of pressure. You're supposed to help each other. That's love. I deleted it. Love had become a word used to explain unpaid bills and unwashed dishes. At noon, I got an email. Congratulations, your application has been approved. My move-in date, the 28th. That night, Ethan tried a new tone. Soft. Uncertain. We can work this out. I'll change. I promise. I watched him for a long moment. You don't need to change. I just need to stop pretending you will. He swallowed hard. So that's it. That's it. He stayed silent for the rest of the night. His face illuminated by the glow of his phone scrolling through pity comments. Validation crumbs. Anyone who'd agree, I was the villain in the story he was rewriting in real time. 2 days later, my landlord called. Just checking, Ethan came by this morning asking to be removed from the lease. Says you're forcing him out. Do you want to confirm that? I smiled into the receiver. Actually, that works perfectly. I've got a new place starting the 28th. If you prepare termination papers, I'll sign. He hesitated. You're both okay with that? I am. I said. He will be. When I got home that evening, Ethan was waiting. Arms folded, panic badly disguised as pride. You talked to Larkin. I did. He said, you agreed to end the lease. I did? His face broke. You were supposed to fight that. Why would I fight something that sets us both free? He stared at me, searching for the old version of me, the fixer, the apologist, the woman who'd clean his mess while saying it's fine. I wasn't there anymore. You already found another place, he said bitterly. I did. So you were planning to leave me? I was planning to leave dysfunction. You just made it easier. His voice rose. Where am I supposed to go? Kelsey's, I offered. Or maybe your supportive friend, Brianna. That landed like a slap. You saw that message. She sent it herself. I said. She seems like a decent person. He went pale. You think this is funny? No, I said. I think it's over. The rest of the week unfolded like slow-motion collapse. He oscillated between begging and rage, between cooking dinner as apology and slamming doors as protest. He tried charm, guilt, silence, all the tools that once worked. None did. The night before we signed the lease termination, he stood at my bedroom door. Voice small. Just one more night. For old time's sake. No. Why not? Because you're not currency. I said, and neither am I. He cried, then real tears. Heavy and uneven. I don't know how to be different. I know, I whispered. And that's why I can't stay. The next morning, we signed. Mr. Larkin. Kind, but tired. Glanced between us. You two will be fine, he said. Like it was both prayer and prophecy. As we handed over the keys, Ethan mumbled, You're really happy to just walk away. I'm not happy, I said. I'm peaceful. There's a difference. He didn't reply. Back home, or what used to be home, I boxed my life piece by piece, the blue plates, the clean mug, my notebooks, my side of the bed that had always stayed, made. The furniture was mostly mine. The quiet was entirely mine. Ethan's father came to help him move. He wouldn't look at me. His mother did. Ons. With eyes full of disappointment for a story she hadn't heard in full. That's fine. I wasn't writing this story for them. When they left, the apartment felt hollow. echoing like a shell that had done its job. I stood in the doorway for a moment, one hand on the frame, and let the weight of 3 years slide off my shoulders like dust. "You told me who you are," I whispered into the empty room. "I believed you." Then I closed the door and didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I woke up in a place that smelled like clean air and quiet mornings. My new studio wasn't perfect. The radiator hissed like it held secrets. The windows rattled when trucks passed, and the light switch in the kitchen needed a gentle tap before it obeyed. But it was mine. Every square foot of it. I brewed coffee in silence. No half-open doors. No questions about where the mugs were. No apologies hiding under jokes. Just the hum of a fridge that I'd stocked myself. A steady pulse of normal. The first few nights after moving in, I kept expecting to hear Ethan's footsteps, that uneven rhythm of someone pacing between avoidance and attention. But the silence held, and I realized silence, when it's chosen, doesn't sound like absence. It sounds like freedom. People reached out. Of course, Kelsey texted once. "He's devastated. You could have tried harder." I deleted it. Brittany DM'd me a week later. "He's moving back with his parents for now. Says you broke him." Maybe I did. Maybe he needed to break to stop leaning on others as scaffolding. That wasn't cruelty. That was gravity. I started therapy. My therapist, a woman with kind eyes and blunt honesty, asked on our first session, "Why do you think you stayed so long?" I thought love meant loyalty. I said, "Even when it felt like drowning." She nodded. "Sometimes love means letting someone sink until they learn to swim." We talked about the patterns, how I overextended, how he depended on it, how the relationship became less a partnership and more a rescue mission. She called it caretaker fatigue. I called it Tuesday, on my 3rd week in the studio. I met someone for coffee, Claire, a colleague I'd only known through group projects and muted Zoom squares. We'd both worked late that night and decided to grab lattes before heading home. She paid for her own without hesitation. We talked about deadlines, her cat, a recipe that didn't require cleanup negotiations. When she laughed, it was easy, not a performance, not a test, just laughter. After she left, I sat in the cafe a little longer, tracing the rim of my cup. The normalcy felt revolutionary. That night, I wrote a note to myself on a yellow sticky, small, and almost private. You can't fix people, but you can fix what you tolerate. I stuck it on the bathroom mirror, right beside the light switch that flickered before it, steadied a perfect metaphor for me. Ethan texted once, 3 weeks after move-out, "Hope you're doing okay. I miss you sometimes." I stared at the message. Then I typed one sentence. "I hope you figure out who you are without someone holding you up." Then I archived the thread. I didn't block him. I didn't need to. Closure doesn't always sound like doors slamming or final speeches. Sometimes it sounds like an unread message, losing its urgency. Months passed. Work got better. My space filled slowly, a plant that didn't die. A shelf I built myself. A rug that actually matched the couch. Every corner carried proof that I could build stability without apology. Sometimes, when I watered the plant by the window, I thought about that night, the one where Ethan said, "Stop trying to fix me. This is who I am." He was right. That was who he was. And it turned out, it was who I was too. The woman who finally stopped mistaking control for care and silence for punishment. Now, when I tell that story, I don't make him the villain. I just tell the truth, he said. Stop trying to fix me, I said. I believe you. And for the first time in my life, I actually did.